One war, two summits, many players. That is how Ukraine's future will be decided. We know that President Donald Trump would shake things up. We knew that he would, but perhaps not this much. He's pushing ahead with talks to end the war. And guess what? He's not even consulting Ukraine. Trump officials are heading to Saudi Arabia right now. The team includes Secretary of State Marco Rubio, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff. In Riyadh, they are expected to meet Russian officials. But why Riyadh? Well, Saudi Arabia is technically neutral. They're not allied with Russia or the United States. At the same time, they have great ties with both the countries. So the kingdom is suited to this role. Now we come to the talks. What are they hoping to achieve? The US says don't expect too much. They're seeing this as a preliminary discussion, sort of like a precursor to the real talks. President Donald Trump gave his assessment yesterday. He said Ukraine will be involved in the talks. He also said that Vladimir Putin wants to stop the fighting.
We're moving along. We're trying to get a peace with Russia and Ukraine, and we're working very hard on it. It's a war that should have never started.
Do you expect Zelensky to be involved in these conversations? What will his role be?
I do. He will be involved, yes.
Based on your conversations with President Putin, what do you think he wants ultimately in Ukraine?
I think he wants to stop fighting. I see that. They have a big, powerful machine. You understand that. And they defeated Hitler and they defeated Napoleon. You know, they've been fighting a long time. They've done it before. And but I think he'd like to. I think he would like to stop fighting.
And Russia agrees. They want to end the war with talks.
This is a powerful signal that now we will try to solve the problem through a dialogue, and now we will talk about peace, not war. After all, what was with the previous administration? No dialogue. The war till the end.
So there is agreement on both sides, in Washington and in Moscow. But is there agreement on Kyiv? And that's where the problem starts. Trump said that Zelensky will be involved in the talks, but Ukraine has not been invited to Riyadh. The US Secretary of State was asked about this. He said Ukraine will be invited eventually when there is something concrete to work on. Same with Europe. The war is being fought on their doorstep. They have poured billions into the war effort, yet there is no clarity on Europe's role. Marco Rubio said the Europeans would be involved, but Trump's special envoy said no. Listen to this.
Can you assure this audience that Ukrainians will be at the table and Europeans will be at the table?
The answer to that last question, just as you framed it, the answer is no. The answer to the earlier part of that question is yes. Of course the Ukrainians are going to be at the table. I mean, it would be foolish to say they wouldn't.
Well, here's the problem. Any peace deal will require security guarantees. Someone will have to promise to defend Ukraine in the future, maybe even deploy soldiers to their border. Trump is clear that America will not do that. He wants Europe to take the lead here. Yet he won't invite Europe to the peace talks. Do you see the problem here? A, the message is conflicting, and B, the plan is all over the place. I'll give you one example of this. Trump's special envoy for Ukraine is Keith Kellogg, the man you just heard speak. But he's not heading to Riyadh for the talks. It is Steve Witkoff. Now, Witkoff is a special envoy for the Gaza war. He's been striking deals in West Asia, and now he's striking deals for Ukraine, or hoping to. Let me repeat that. Trump's Gaza envoy is taking part in the Ukraine talks. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian envoy is not even at the table. It suggests a great deal of chaos. Nonetheless, let's try to figure out a pattern here. What are they trying to do? Two things are quite clear from President Trump's approach. Number one, he wants to deal directly with Russia. He doesn't want Ukraine or Europe anywhere near the talks. From his perspective, you can see why he wants that. Europe and Ukraine will not agree to any concessions, so chances of success are quite low. They could sink the peace plan quickly. And number two, he wants to move fast. We have mentioned the strategy before. It's called shock and awe. Make rapid moves before your enemies and allies can catch their breath. That's what Trump is doing right now. Just look at his timeline. Last Wednesday, he spoke to President Putin. On Friday, Vice President J.D. Vance met Zelensky. On Sunday night, Trump's team headed to Saudi Arabia. Tomorrow, they will meet the Russians. And by the end of this month, Trump could meet Vladimir Putin. That's the latest assessment. Do you see how fast things are moving? Even Ukraine and Europe have been caught off guard. It's certainly a new peace strategy, but not necessarily a good one. If Trump had simply cut off military aid, it would have been understandable. He had hinted at doing that on the campaign trail, so no one would have been surprised, perhaps not even Zelensky. But Trump is not doing that. He is negotiating Ukraine's future without Ukraine. And that is a recipe for disaster. We're calling this show Vantage. We hope you like what we've put together for you. Touted as the minimum two-ways defense from that video. India's neighbors were the first to send this special edition of Vantage live from the White House throughout this week. Yes, Hindu Mandir we're on our way to Tel Aviv. City measure, but it's also the perfect way to drive.
I don't think that
Prime Minister of Bhutan, Sherin Tagwe. Welcome to
60% of the world's
office. Prime Minister Modi did the iron.
we were actually
How are you doing? How do you like? It's been 1 year since that meeting. Iron bars separate you from the outside. Out the vote efforts. Trump had, it says, and at $4.3 trillion, 300 billion by 2030. That's what we need to tackle climate change.